show you how to put in an afterthought heel. So you would normally figure out where your heel needs to go on your sock before you start to place it. I'm just using this swatch as a demo piece, so I'm not going to measure. So I don't mark my rounds at all on my socks, so I determine where the start of my round was. I always start from the first stitch of my round. So I can tell this is the first stitch because I've already bound off, and this is the first knit stitch. And I just go down and follow that column of stitches all the way down to where the heel would go if this was a full-size sock. And you're going to pick up the right leg of that first stitch. And then you pick up the right leg of all of the stitches that are on the same row as that first stitch you picked up. And you're going to do that across the whole amount of stitches you need to pick up for your heel. So if this was a 72 stitch sock, I would be picking up 36 stitches. If this was a 64 stitch sock, I'd be picking up 32 stitches on this needle. So you need half the total stitch count for your heel pickup on this first needle. I'm not going to do that many stitches because I'm just doing this swatch. So you do that. And then you're going to take another needle. And I'm using Addi Flexi Flips, but you could do this on DPNs. It's totally cool. And you're going to pick up 2 below the stitch that's on the needle. So 1, 2. So we're basically leaving a row of stitches in between these pickups. And it's the same thing. You're going to pick up the rightmost leg of all of these stitches. And you want to make sure that you have the same number of stitches on each of these needles. There we go. So now you're all set up to cut, and you shouldn't be concerned about cutting because your stitches are secured on your needles here. So to do the cutting part, you're going to need scissors and a darning needle. So I like to try and find the middle of my stitches about, and you want to stick the blade of your needle in and basically act like you're going to pick up one of those stitches that's in between the 2 needles. And you don't want to cut either of the stitches that are actually on the needle. We just want to cut the stitch that is in between. So I'm going to go in there, I'm going to snip him, and then I just pick that whole row of stitches out. I do not appear to have actually cut my stitch all the way, so I can get that strand. So then I take my darning needle. You could do this with one of your leftover DPNs too. I don't know why, I just like to do it with a darning needle. And you pick that row of stitches that's in between your 2 needles out. And I just keep sticking it into each of those legs. You can see that the strand is curly because it was knit in there, and now we have a little hole forming. All right. And I like to leave this last stitch still attached just to prevent a hole forming. So I just tuck my little end in there. And then I make sure I get the other side. The other side still has all these stitches. Pick them. I think people think this is scary because you cut your knitting, but we just cut that one little stitch. So it's very controlled, not really in danger of messing anything up, as long as you go slowly. And the same thing on this side, I just like to leave this last little stitch still attached so I don't get a hole. And now you are all set up to knit your afterthought heel. I tuck my ends on the inside. This is the spot where the heel is going to go, and you just knit around that as if it was a whole other sock coming out of the side of your sock. It's pretty simple. If you want, you can pick up a stitch on the leg that goes in between your two needles to prevent a hole. I find that just not unpicking that last bit helps with that. But that's really all there is to it.